He didn't chase attention, he chased the ball. And when he caught it, he didn't showboat. He shifted momentum. John Connelly was never the loudest man on the pitch, but give him the ball, and he'd speak through motion, a blur down the wing, a shimmy, and a cross that curved like instinct. He didn't play for cameras, didn't shout to be heard. He just ran, beat his man, delivered, no wild celebrations, no slogans, just boots on grass, doing damage you could measure in silence. If you blinked, you missed the winger who won titles at Burnley and Manchester United, who wore an England shirt 20 times but was never allowed a farewell, who came home from the 1966 World Cup with a medal he wouldn't receive until 43 years later. He wore the same shirt as Greaves, Charlton and Banks and never looked out of place. John Connelly wasn't the star, but he was the kind of player the stars needed to shine. And if football had a memory that cared about justice, his name would be etched on walls, not whispered through old matchday programs. Subscribe if you still believe that forgotten champions still deserve to be remembered. John Michael Connelly was born on 18 July 1938 in St Helens, Lancashire, a town built on coal, glass and rugby. But John chased something lighter, a leather ball skipping across concrete. He played for hours in the street, boots scuffed, ankles bruised, but always dancing. In 1956, at age 18, he signed as a professional with Burnley Football Club. And on the 11th of March 1957, he made his first division debut against Leeds United, a quiet teenager thrown into the storm who didn't just survive, he stayed. By 1958-59, he was a regular. By 1959-60, he was unstoppable. Playing as an outside right, Connelly brought balance to Burnley's side. He had pace, control, and the kind of low cross that defenders hated and strikers loved. He didn't grandstand, he just did the work. And week after week, the stats began to stack. In that breakthrough period, he scored 20 goals in 34 appearances, unheard of numbers for a winger. And with his form impossible to ignore, England came calling. In October 1959, he earned his first international cap against Wales. A local lad with no flair for fame, suddenly walking in Wembley boots. And yet, he never changed. He still trained like the quietest player on the pitch, still left the ground the same way he arrived. Head down, boots muddy, mission clear. The 1959-60 season. Burnley weren't supposed to win it. Wolves were the favourites, Spurs had the flair, even Manchester United were circling. But it was the quiet club from Lancashire and their even quieter winger who wrote their name across English football. Connelly wasn't just present, he was essential. He scored 20 goals that season, playing every game, delivering crosses that sliced through defences, and goals that changed league tables. Burnley, under manager Harry Potts, played with a style beyond their budget, quick passing, wide attacks, and a trust in players like Connelly to make the pitch feel wider than it was. On the 2nd of May 1960, the title went down to the final day. Burnley needed a win away at Manchester City. They delivered 2-1. Champions. It was only the second First Division title in their history, and they haven't won one since. John Connelly, just 21 years old, stood as one of the league's top performers. Not a captain, not a striker, just a winger with a clean pair of boots and a season's worth of answers. By the end of that summer, he wasn't just a Burnley hero, he was on England's team sheet. The lad from St Helens, now part of the nation's new dream. By 1964, Burnley had done all they could to hold on, but Connelly had outgrown the crown. His next chapter, Old Trafford. Manchester United paid £56,000, a record for a winger at the time, but they weren't just buying pace, they were buying pedigree. Under Sir Matt Busby, United were rebuilding not just a team, but a soul after Munich. And into this story walked John Connelly, not as a savior, but as the missing rhythm on the flank. He made his debut on 22nd August 1964 in a 2-2 draw against West Brom. Wearing the number 7, he didn't roar. He just ran and delivered. In his very first season at United, he helped them win the 1964-65 First Division title. 1 year, 1 trophy, straight impact. Alongside George Best, Bobby Charlton and Denis Law, Connelly offered something rare, a winger who could match artistry with consistency. He scored 13 goals in 80 league appearances for United, but it wasn't just the stats, it was the moments. The way he bent a ball across the box like he could hear where Law would be. But even at United, he remained a whisper surrounded by legends who screamed in headlines. Connelly just kept showing up, doing the work, turning matches on their hinges, and walking off like nothing happened. He helped bring United back to glory. Then, as quietly as he arrived, he moved on. In 1966, just one season after winning the league, Connelly transferred to Blackburn Rovers. He'd already worn 2 red shirts to titles. He had nothing left to prove. By 1966, John Connelly had earned 20 caps for England. He'd scored 7 goals. He'd played in the 1962 World Cup in Chile and was part of Alf Ramsey's trusted wide men in the build-up to the tournament. And when England opened their campaign at Wembley on the 11th of July 1966, guess who started on the wing? John Connelly. England versus Uruguay. It ended 0-0, but Connelly's name was on the team sheet, a World Cup starter on home soil, wearing the 3 lions in front of the world. But that was the end. Ramsey changed the system. Out went wingers. In came the infamous wingless wonders. Connelly was dropped. Never played another match in the tournament, never wore the shirt again. He watched, like millions did, as England lifted the trophy on 30th of July 1966. But he wasn't on the pitch, not in the photo, not even in the minds of most fans. And because he didn't play again after the group stage, he was not awarded a winner's medal. Not then. It took 43 years. In 2009, after decades of lobbying, FIFA finally agreed to give medals to the unused squad members of 1966. And at last, John Connelly, then in his 70s, received his medal. Too late for the parades, too late for the broadcasts. But just in time for the truth. He was always a World Cup winner. The medal just took a while to catch up. He played for 2 solid seasons at Ewood Park, clocking in 149 league appearances and 36 goals across all competitions. Reliable, productive. But as always, no headlines. Then came Bury in 1970. It was his final club. Just 8 league appearances, no goals, but no regrets either. He quietly retired from football in 1973, aged 35, no fanfare, no testimonial match, no interviews. He walked away the same way he played, straight, clean, no drama. But the respect stayed. Years later, when his World Cup medal was finally handed over, fans, teammates, and historians alike paused to remember him not for what he said, but for everything he did. From Burnley to Wembley, from Turf Moor to the world stage, John Connelly didn't just play football. He dignified it. He never shouted. He never waved to the cameras. He never had a statue raised in his name. But John Connelly didn't need marble or microphones. His story was carved in boots, etched on muddy pitches, and remembered in the silence that follows a perfect goal. He gave Burnley their last league title. He gave Manchester United their rhythm on the wing. He gave England his prime and got a World Cup medal half a lifetime later. No headlines followed him in retirement, no talk shows. He ran a fish and chip shop in Briarfield, just a few miles from where it all began. Content, grounded, legend, minus the glitter. He passed away on 25th of October 2012, aged 74. Gone quietly, just like he lived, but those who played with him spoke of a man who made the game feel bigger, not with volume, but with presence. Sir Bobby Charlton once called him one of the finest professionals I ever played with. No flash, no fuss, just football played the right way. And the fans, the ones who stood in the terraces, who remember the way he bent a cross in from the touchline without breaking stride, they know. He didn't chase attention, he chased the game. And in doing so, he became the kind of footballer whose silence said everything. Subscribe if you still believe some names deserve more than just a whisper.